At this time, we're going to uncarton the machine. And I'm going to take the machine weighs 47 pounds coming out of the box. And we'll put all that underneath the table. We're going to uncarton all of the parts that we'll be assembling to the machine. Okay, double check, make sure that everything's been uncartoned. There's nothing else and no more parts. Discard that and get it out of your way. At that time, machine together on page 5. And at this time, we are going to be attaching the square tubing to the top of the Tin Lizzie 18 LS. And this is the square tubing, and it comes with lots of packing shavings, and I like to shake those out and get rid of them at this time. And also, you get a little accessory kit that has all your little parts, your bobbins, your oil. And right now, we need to find the 2 screws to attach the square tube.
Go. Now, as we look at the square tube, before we put it onto the sewing machine itself, you'll notice that there is 2 screw holes on the front and the back at an angle, and this is where we're going to be putting a black knob. So if you come over to the sewing machine, we actually have it completed before we start here. You'll notice that the black knobs, you got one in the front and one in the rear, and that is to actually hold the handlebar in place. So as we get ready to start assembling our thread stand and our light fixture, you'll notice that we can put the part right in place like this, and our 2 black screw knobs will be facing on the right side if you're in the front of the machine here. But this is the way it's set up before you actually start putting your pieces where your light fixture is and for your thread stand. So now we'll go ahead and show you how to put those parts on the center piece.
Now, when you attach the square tubing, the black wheel is at the back of the frame, and the sewing head is to the front, and the handles go down the main control box
This particular cardboard and piece of masonite that we stick in here is actually a protection for our pulley so that it doesn't get jammed up into shipping. So that's actually in here. We want to go ahead and remove this, and you'll notice that we have one on front of the sewing machine also as a protection for the needle bar and for the presser foot. And again, all you just need to do is just kind of cut the tape, and you can release it, and that part just comes out. And you can just go ahead and put those back in the accessory box, but you do not need those when we're sewing. But they definitely have to be taken off of the machine in both locations. Okay.
Okay. And next we'll be attaching the light fixture. And what I usually do is undo my cord, take off the 2 nuts, Okay, at this time we're going to attach the light fixture. I'm going to get to the end of the cord and I'm going to run it through the square tubing. Lift the lighting up and put it all the way in.
Now you'll notice that as Terry's put this through, our cable is really long. Now you got one of two options. You can go ahead and just leave it to that length and wrap it around. But I find that what I like doing is I like wrapping it around the post one time and coming over to where we're going to plug into the area. And I generally add a couple of inches to that. And then I'll take a wire cutter and I just cut the wire off so that we have the room here. Then if you need a little extra, you can kind of come in. But again, I just wrap around this, and what I do at this point is I go ahead and I separate the cords to where you have it in this position at this. And what I'm going to do is we're going to take the washer, put the washer in place, we're going to put the locking nut in, and then we're just going to go ahead and put that, and we'll go ahead and lock it into and underneath, and we're going to screw this up on the top. And you can just take any crescent wrench or whatever wrench that you want to lock this up on the top end. Okay, Terry now has a 1/2 inch opened in wrench, and she's locking the screw, and she's tightening it to where it'll be nice and tight, and then the light fixture will not move, so we're all set. So now where we've taken the end where we've actually split the cable, I'm actually going to take a wire cutter and we're just going to separate the wire to about a 1/2 inch of the existing wire out, and I'm just going to twist the wire so that it's nice and tight. And then what she's going to do is loosen the screw just ever so slightly. That's plenty. And then we're going to go ahead and open this up, and you're going to notice that we have the 2 screws in this point here where we're going to go ahead and take our wires. And so we're going to take our wires, and I just kind of just bend it just a little bit, and I'm going to attach it underneath the threaded screw, and then she's just going to go ahead and twist that and make it nice and tight. So we have the one side, and then we're going to come to the other, do the same thing, put it underneath, and you'll notice that both of our threads now are tight and our wires on each side, and then we have our separation here. We just kind of just slide them onto the side. There's actually little grooves that hold that wire in position, and that just kind of lays down. We go ahead and close it, it will snap, and then she can go ahead and tighten the screw back up on the outside. And once that's done, again, you can come around. I generally wrap it around once, and I come in here, and then I plug it in to where it's plugging in facing this way here. Now our light fixture is completely done. Have a
At this time, we're going to go ahead and start unpackaging the thread stand and putting it together. At this time, I'm just going to go ahead and unscrew this nut, take the silver and a black washer off, place it on the square tubing.
And you'll notice that we have one washer and one rubber washer on top. That's kind of like a anti-vibration piece, and then we have one that's going to go underneath.
The rubber one, and then the metal one, and then the nut.
This is where you're going to use the large adjustable wrench, and then you're just going to tighten that nut onto the upright bar of the thread stand, and that's okay, that's tight. We're going to go ahead and take on the top here, we got the little rubber pad, we're going to go ahead and take that off just for a few minutes as we need to put the thread stand posts up. But what Terry's doing now is she's actually taking the thread stand post out that the actual thread is going to be sitting on. And so you'll notice it actually has a nut and a lock washer on it. So the one nut will stay on, and it will go on the outside. And we'll put the washer, the lock washer, and the nut on the inside, and we'll just go ahead and put that in position. And what I like doing at this point is I like taking, you'll notice it has a cutout on here, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in position, and it goes right over the nut and it holds it in place. And at that point you can actually go ahead, and that actually kind of almost acts as a wrench to hold that nut in place, and you can come back here and tighten the nut so that it's in place. And then we have that, and then she's going to put the lock washer in and the nut on the other one. You'll notice that when she's doing this, we're using the outside hole and the inside hole. We do not use the middle hole. It's just the outside and the inside. She's going to use the crescent wrench to tighten that one up there. She's going to go ahead and, where the hole's at, go ahead and put it in. We want to go ahead and have the thread stand on the side where the tension assembly is. So we're going to go ahead and turn the machine around so you can kind of see what we've done here. We've actually got the sewing machine where all of the thread is at. That's the side that the thread stand is going to be on. So we got that in. We're going to go ahead now and take our screwdriver, and we're going to go ahead and tighten that screw up there. So that looks good enough. So we'll go ahead and just move that out to where it's more of at a 90 degree to the sewing machine. We're going to put the thread stops on place. We have the thread tree that's on top, that actually where the thread is going to go. That's going to go in position also. And I'm going to go ahead and put the thread cap back on, or the rubber cap, to close off the top piece. And Terry's going to go ahead and tighten the top screw up. And the thread stand is now in place. And so we are now ready to have the thread stand to be used at this point. So you'll notice on the sewing machine that there's actually going to be 3 screws on the back end, and this is where we're going to put our belt guard on. And so we're going to take the screws off that come on the machine, and we'll be able to go ahead and mount the belt guard, and this is what's going to protect you from the belt while it's spinning or it's in the sewing rotation. We're going to go ahead and take the belt guard and put it in position. You'll notice that we have the larger hole here that's going to go around the hand wheel pulley, but it's covering the pulley on the motor. And then we just go ahead and line up our 2 holes up on top. And she's going to tighten that one in position. That's good. And then we're going to come over and we're going to take the other one in position. We got it in position there. It makes it a lot easier also when you got 4 hands instead of just the 2, right, Terry?
Exactly.
So if you have a neighbor, friend, or whatever that you would love to have help you, this is a great opportunity to become great friends, or greater friends. Now we're going to go ahead and take, and we're going to put the 3rd screw on the bottom one. Now we're going to go ahead and tighten the screw up on the belt guard. Tight is tight. And then we're going to go ahead and tighten this one up here. And so we will tighten this one up on top, and tighten this one here. And at this point, now we have the belt guard in, and it's in position at the right way. Go ahead and go.
Okay, at this time we're going to install the handlebar knobs. And to get them started, you just turn them, and you don't need them to go in very far, just to be attached.
We have one in the front, and we have one in the rear. We're going to go ahead and now we're going to take the gooseneck, and it's going to receive into the square tubing. It's going to slide in, so we make sure that the black knob is out just enough where it's going to come in, and at this point we're going to go ahead and lock this in position. But you're going to notice that when we ship these handlebars, they're offset just a little bit. So what we do is we just kind of go ahead and loosen and then we can actually move the handlebars back over to where they're actually centered. And you'll notice we have this tape in here, and basically all the tape is in there just to keep the paint from scratching. You can leave it in there or do what you want, but I just go ahead and just leave it in position. But once you've got it to where you feel like you're centered from one side to the other, then we go ahead and use our Allen screw or Allen wrench, And that's the one that we got with the frame assembly, is the same screw that's on this position. She's just going to go ahead and lock those in. The nice thing about what she's doing here is once they're locked, but you have the ability to move the handlebar in and out. So it's the ergonomic feel that you want. So depending on if you want it higher or lower, by loosening these two screws you can move it up or move it down. So at this point you're basically ready to go ahead and attach the cable. So at this point we have a cable that we need to attach to the left handlebar. You're going to notice that on the controllers, we have a left and a right controller. There's actually two places that we can plug into. The one on the left is the one that we're going to plug our cable that's going to be running our Lizzie stitch. At this present time we are not using the one on the right hand side. And notice that we have the cable that's going to attach the front controller to the control box. This cable is reversible. We have two ends. They're identical, so it does not matter if we're going to use this end or this end, front or back. We definitely want to control from the left side. We're not going to connect on the controller on the right hand side at this time. What we're going to do is you're going to notice that on the pin connection we have like a little square piece plus the indentation. On the front controller, that indentation is going to be facing directly to the back, and it also has two little grooves that are going to face forward. So you just kind of just wiggle it until it falls into place, and that's going to be it. Now we're going to take, and Terry's going to show us where we plug into the back side. We'll turn the machine around to the back, and you'll see the same two, the little pins and the indicator. Now you'll notice that on the indicator it's actually at a 90-degree angle off the side of the box. So up on the front it's facing up, on the back it's facing off to the side. And again, when you just push it in, all you need to do is just kind of just feel, and then just once you get it in there, just push it in and it's engaged. And that's how we do that. Now what I always do is I always take the cable and I put the cable here, but you'll notice how the cable has a tendency to come around here. So what I do is I unplug it and I just twist it about 180 or 360 degrees, so you're actually, and then I replug it in, and you'll notice how the cable is on the back side. If the cable is turning to where it's over here and you have it plugged in, might have a tendency to get into this part of the hand wheel. So whenever you plug it in and you're sitting in this position, again, take and twist the cable to where it's around here, plug it back in, and then you'll notice the cable is always away from where the hand wheel is at. We have the power cord, and we can just take the power cord and just take the twist tie off. And this is really simple because there's really only one way that we can plug it in. It's a 3-prong plug, and we can just go ahead and plug it in through the back side, and we basically have our sewing machine ready to start quilting. So at this point we're going to go ahead and put it on the frame and show you how we can thread it and how we're going to do a bobbin. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move the carriage all the way to the end of the table. And you'll notice that what we've done is we've taken the one pole that goes through the center of the machine, we've moved it out of the way, but most importantly we're actually going to load the sewing machine on the right side frame. We don't really want to load it from the end where the gears are at. It's much easier to load the sewing machine on the opposite side where the gears are at on the rails. So now that we've got it moved over to this area, we can go ahead and take the sewing machine and we put it in position. Now what you'll notice is the sewing machine is actually a little bit longer than the deck. That's for a purpose, so it's a little bit easier for you to go ahead and get into the bobbin area when we get ready to change the sewing machine. So I just pretty much make sure that I'm even from the front to the back, and I'll notice I'm a little bit off on that, so I've just slid it to where now we're equal front and back. And I'm equal left and right. So that's all we need to look at, and making sure that we've put the skid pad down. This machine now will not slide on that carriage, and it's in perfect position.
And now what you need to do is come to the back of the machine, and what you want to do is you want to zip tie your cord to the back of the machine with it in the most forward position. Zip tie the cord so that it can't get caught on the frame system and create zigzag stitches. And you want to make sure that it's to the rear of the machine and not on the side when you do this. And zip tie that down tight. And make sure that you clip it off.
Now you're going to notice that the carriage is all in position. We're going to go ahead now and we're going to take the pipe, but we're going to have to take the pipe off of the opposite end, and we're going to slide the pipe through the center of the sewing machine, making sure our locking washer is on the outside, and we're going to drop that down. You'll notice now that the pipe is actually touching the bed of the sewing machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the locking knobs over here, and I'm going to raise it in, and Terry on the opposite end is going to raise it down there. Just for purposes, I'm just going to move it out of the way. But on the inside part of the frame, we have all of the measurements here. And so we just want to make sure that whatever we are here, so that if we are on the longer notches, we just want to make sure that we're on the longer notches at the opposite end. And that will make our rail nice and straight and even all the way across. So we basically have loaded our sewing machine. We've loaded our quilt top. We're ready to go ahead and show you how to thread the machine at this point. What we're going to do now is Terry's actually gone ahead and put a spool of thread on the outside thread stand, and this is what we're going to do threading for the sewing machine. So she's going up to the top part of the thread stand, which we call the thread tree, and then we're going to drop down to the thread guide here. You'll notice that we actually have several thread guides, but we're only going to use the first one and the last one. It does not matter if you come in through the top or through the bottom. Some threads will thread differently, but for most threads you can either go through the top or through the bottom. So we're going to go through the bottom in this application. Then she's going to come directly over to this thread guide here. And then you'll notice also that our thread guide in this point has 3 holes. Again, we're just going to use the first one and the last one and disregard this one. You'll notice that all of our thread points as we're threading really are no more than 5 inches apart, and that really helps control our thread all the way through the thread path. So she's going to go ahead and thread the first and the last. She's going to come up from the underside, and then she's going to come up from the underside, and then she's going to come straight down, and she's going to go between the tension disc. Now this is something that we would like to show you that we feel is very important. We have a tension release lever over here, but it also is a foot lifter. If you notice, as I move this up, it lifts the presser foot up, but also as I lift this up, it actually releases the tension disc so that you're able to get the thread through the tension and make sure that it's in tension. You'll notice now that as Terry wrapped it around, what you'll notice, she actually went around the tension all the way around, and then you're going to notice we have what we call a check spring right here. So she's going to bring the thread basically up at 11 o'clock, and she's going to go over the check spring, down underneath the L bracket, and then she's going to come straight up, and she's going to go through the tension through here. Now this is a slot, so she's going to come from the right to the left and go through the thread guide here. She's going to come straight up. Now as we're looking at the needle bar take-up, you'll notice that the needle bar take-up in this position moves up and down and puts it in several locations. What we want to do in threading, we want to make sure we thread from back to front in the needle bar take-up. So we'll just take the thread, again, back to front. Now what you'll notice, we're going to take our thread guide that's coming down on the opposite side, we're going to thread it front to back, and it actually slides in. It's a thread guide here, it's a slip fit, and then the one just below that is going to thread from back to front. Then on the bottom of the machine, right above the eye of the needle, we have our needle eyelet. It's not a slot, it's actually an eyelet. What I notice is that if I put the needle in the lowest position, it's a little bit easier for us to thread, and you can literally take the thread and come at a 45-degree angle and thread it through the eyelet and pull it out. So again, at a different angle, if we take the thread and thread it 45-degree angle coming through the eyelet, can pull the thread, and it literally is in. Now at this point I'm going to go ahead and raise the needle bar to its highest position by turning the hand wheel in counterclockwise rotation. You'll notice now the needle bar and the needle eye is up in the high position, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take the needle thread and we're going to thread the eye front to back. Again, threading the needle front to back, and that is the proper way we thread the machine. So we'll just go ahead from the front side of the machine and thread it through the back. So again, from the front to the back, it goes through the eyelet. So now we're going to go ahead and thread to the thread guides that are on the bobbin winder tension assembly. We have the top thread guide and the bottom thread guide. So we're going to go ahead and thread the top one first, and we're going to come from the top to the bottom. So at this, we're just going to thread that through, grab our thread, and then we wrap between the two discs and we bring it through. And I kind of floss the thread back and forth to make sure it is in between the two discs. At that point, I go ahead and thread the thread guide that's on the bottom and pull it around, and now we have our thread coming over to the thread going onto the bobbin. Now when we wrap the bobbin, we're going to wrap it around clockwise, and what I do is I generally wrap 4 or 5 wraps around the bobbin itself, and the bobbin is now set. What we do here is we have the little finger that is going to be pushed into the bobbin case, and now the bobbin case winder is engaged to the sewing machine. The bobbin winder does not work on its own. The bobbin winder only winds when you turn the machine on from the front of the machine. So you can actually wind your bobbin as you are stitching. We have our start-stop key on the right handle and our start-stop key on the left handle. Now, what's really nice about this, you can literally push the start-stop key, and as the machine starts stitching, it will automatically wind the bobbin. We suggest as you're sewing or you're quilting that you have the bobbin winder engaged, and it will actually wind the bobbin as you're sewing. What will happen is as the bobbin fills up, the little black lever slowly moves out, and when it's full, it literally jumps out and it shuts the bobbin off. So that it will automatically turn off when you're stitching, so it will not overfill.
Okay, at this time I've uncartoned the laser light, and what I'm going to do is unscrew the knob, drop it down, and the laser light actually is together perfectly like so. Tighten it down, take the knob off the top of it, drop it in your hand, attach it to the side of the machine, put the screw through all the way through, and attach the knob right in between the light and the thread guide holder. And that's how you attach the laser light to the machine.
Let's go ahead and putting the bolt all the way through the panel, and then we will take the locking knob and go ahead and mount it up on top, and we will tighten that up. And once that's in place, now you're able to run your template board in this particular area, and we can actually move it whatever design we want. And the nice thing about that is we actually have now more distance so that we can actually sew a wider field.
All right, at this time we're going to take the bobbin case out of the bobbin hook assembly, lift the spring and pull both of them out, the bobbin and the bobbin case, making sure you don't drop your bobbin case on any hardwood floor. There's the inside of your spring, and the outside is the M bobbin. It has this pigtail here.
What we use on the pigtail, a lot of the users or quilters now are using decorative threads. So if you're going to use your monofilament or your rainbow type threads or your embroidery threads, this is probably where you're going to want to put that thread, and it holds it in position a little bit better. If you're just using standard threads, we recommend not using it and just going through the standard thread path, and Terry's going to go ahead and demonstrate how that goes in.
I always put the thread in my right pinky coming off the top of the thread. I drop it in, run it through the slot, through the spring, and holding my bobbin to put it in. Don't hold it with the spring out. Just hold your bobbin and put it into place. Once it's lined up, click it in. We're going to show you where the fuse box is, and it's just below where you would plug in the power cord. And what you do is you just pop that out. It slides right out. You can turn it over and you can replace the fuse. Slide it back in. Place it back into the slot and push it into place. Then replace your power cord in the side of the machine. We have the encoders. And you'll notice that there is like a slat in the middle and then a blank spot. And if you line that up, with the blank spot and the slat in the center of the hull, it will slide right in. And we've already gone over how to plug in the stitch, the Lizzie stitch regulator right in there. You'll also notice that there are two other holes, and we are not using these at this time. They are for future use.